Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rao. With a big day today. It's polling day, the second phase of elections in Assam and West Bengal. But the big news coming in right now is that the slash of interest rates on small savings that was announced yesterday has been withdrawn. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tweeted just a short while ago. We'll get you all those details up ahead. Let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking. 30 constituencies in Bengal and 39 in Assam vote today in a high-stakes second phase of the elections. Nandigram is the epicentre of the battle for Bengal, with Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee versus protege-turned-arch rival BJP Suvendu Adhikari, who cast his vote a short while ago. The next big push in the COVID vaccinations begins today. Vaccines for those over the age of 45 years. Hopefully, vaccine rates will go up. It's currently been around 20 to 30 lakh per day. AIIMS Chief Dr. Guleria told NDTV that the main issue currently being faced during the vaccination drive is not the shortage of doses, but that large groups of people are not coming to the vaccination sites. The government does a U-turn on the interest rate cut on small savings. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announces that it will remain the same. And a setback for Karnataka Chief Minister Yediyurappa, with the High Court saying investigate the Chief Minister in Operation Kamal that had toppled the Congress JDU government. Well, the big breaking news coming in just now that we want to update you on is that the interest rate cut that had been announced on small savings, something that had led to a lot of hand-wringing, has now been reversed by the government. Interest rates on small savings, PPF, had been cut for a second time and had led to a big reaction. But now, as you can see, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tweeting that interest rates of small savings schemes shall continue to be at the rates which existed in the last quarter of 2020-2021. That's the rates that prevailed as of March 2021. The orders have been issued by the oversight shall be withdrawn. So that order of the rate cut has been withdrawn. A very interesting U-turn done on this order that had been given yesterday that had led to much outrage. It affected a lot of the elderly people in the country, as they are the ones who have money put in this in small savings schemes, including national savings certificates and public provident fund. It was a huge cut that had been announced of up to 1.1% for the first quarter of 21-22. It was considered a massive blow to the middle class depositors. So after that reaction, and given that people are reeling still from 2020, the lockdown, coronavirus, and the impact it's had on the economy, the government now withdrawing that order. Nirmala Sitharaman tweeting just a short while ago that this order had now been withdrawn. The interest rates on PPF had been reduced from 7.1% to 6.4%. And this is something that had upset, of course, many in the middle class, given that, as we said, they're already reeling from the economic impact that this last year of the lockdown and the coronavirus pandemic has had. So the government rethinking that decision and now reversing it. So an interesting and a rare U-turn by the government on this issue of cutting interest rates on small savings. It was meant to come into effect from today. When interest was cut on the national savings certificates and public provident fund. So that decision now withdrawn, and the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tweeting just a short while ago that interest rates of small savings schemes of the GOI shall continue to be at the earlier rate, that is in March, and the order issued has been withdrawn. Sunil, very interesting, as I said, a rare U-turn by the government, but this slash had gotten quite a reaction. It would impact the elderly, it would impact the middle class. So good news.
Well, Gargi, you must remember that voting is taking place. This decision last night was taken by bureaucrats, something that has now completely taken the finance ministry and the top echelons of the government, from the prime minister downwards. A clear directive. What are you doing at this time when at present there is elections underway and voting is taking place? How could these orders have been passed without pure proper due diligence? That's the reason why they have been withdrawn. by the Finance Minister. Of course, the intention is clear. How they will go over this will have to be seen. But definitely the big and most important point is that because of the political impact, as India and parts of Bengal and Assam go for voting, this decision of reducing the interest rate, this remember, the Finance Ministry decision must have had due diligence in terms of going through that entire process of why they wanted to do it, because the government has already made its intention clear in terms of how it plans to borrow in the next, in the coming fiscal, that is from April 1st till September, nearly 60% of the fiscal deficit. And that's the reason why they wanted to ensure that even small savings, though it hurts the common man, especially senior citizens, and actually across the board, all taxpayers, be it in the Provident Fund, in the Kisan Vikas Patra, in the small savings deposits, the poor get affected. Now, of course, the government realizing the huge impact it has, and as I said, Bengal and Assam are going into voting. There's this tweet that has come out from the Finance Ministry saying that this stands withdrawn immediately. So clearly, the government doing damage control at this stage, and the decision to keep it on hold and withdrawing this decision has been taken.
Right, Sunil, the worry is now that once the elections are over, will we again see a reversal?
Well, that's anybody's guess. We'll have to wait and watch. But definitely, as I said, the government's intention is clear. They need to do this because they need to get, they need to borrow and get the fiscal deficit under control. There is they want to finance and ensure that nearly 60% of it takes place in the first quarter itself. And that is why they wanted to ensure that instead of it borrowing hugely, they make it clear to the investors as well as the common man, people who are dependent on these savings, that they are reducing those interest rates. But now, of course, that's anybody's guess what will happen. As of now, the government has withdrawn that decision, which was taken late last night. We'll have to wait and watch and see whether this will have an impact on the voting in Bengal and Assam. But nevertheless, the fact is that it has taken place. One curious point, Gargi, is of course what has happened to the Election Commission and its role. Were they the ones who preempted it? How did this decision come about? What is the way all these decisions have been taken? Because after all, the conduct of elections, of a free and fair elections at a time like this, when a mini elections is taking place, how did this decision first go ahead? Was it approved by the Election Commission? And now the decision to withdraw, does it have the approval of the Election Commission? Because after all, they keep talking about Article 320, about the fact that they have been empowered by the Constitution. What role did the Election Commission have to play on this is important.
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. So that's the big breaking news right now. That decision to cut the interest rates on small savings schemes has been withdrawn, tweeted a short while ago by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. And the decision that came on the eve of elections, of the second phase elections in West Bengal and Assam, has now been blamed on bureaucrats. It was bureaucrats that took this decision, and now the government has withdrawn it, and it's done a U-turn on that decision. Interest rates on small savings will remain the same. And it's polling day. Voting for the second phase of elections in 39 seats in Assam and 30 in West Bengal is taking place amid high security. Nandigram is the big battleground where Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is taking on her former loyalist turned adversary, Suvendu Adhikari of the BJP now. We'll go across to our reporters. Ratnadeep joins us from Assam, from Silchar, and Monideepa joins us from Nandigram for all the latest on polling day. And Monideepa, first to you. Suvendu Adhikari has already come out and he's cast his vote. As we said, all eyes are on this battle, and Nandigram really the big battleground, the epicenter really of this fight between the Trinamool Congress and the BJP in West Bengal.
Yes, indeed. And we are just outside Mamata Banerjee's house at Nandigram in a place called Riyapada. There you can see Mamata Banerjee has been here for the last few days. And an update is that she was supposed to leave Nandigram today and go off back to Kolkata. But we are hearing now that she has decided to stay on tonight and she'll only be leaving Nandigram tomorrow. Concerns, of course, about how the day passes today in Nandigram, how voting is. Already, actually, since start of polls at 7 o'clock, we've been receiving information from Trinamool sources that there are problems at several booths. In Nandigram itself, for instance, at Boyal 2, booth number 14, apparently polling agents were heckled by BJP goons. That is, I'm quoting the Trinamool Congress here. Again, in booth number 131, 15 to 20 BJP workers are not allowing booth agents of the Trinamool Congress to get inside. That's from near Birulia, which is, remember, where Mamata Banerjee was coming out of when she got injured. And then there is booth number 247, 248 at Gokul Nagar. Also reports coming in from the Trinamool Congress that there are problems. Not just in Nandigram, even in other places, there are reports coming in from the Trinamool side of problems being created by alleged BJP supporters. One of the places is Moina, also in East Midnapur district. That's where you have the BJP candidate Ashok Dinda, who was 2 days ago injured in apparently an attack by Trinamool men. His car was pelted with stones and he was injured. So Moina, Nandigram, reports of trouble emanating from the Trinamool Congress side, but otherwise so far none from the BJP, no complaints received from the BJP. It's a tense situation over here in Nandigram, I can tell you that, simply because of the close fight. 2.5 lakh voters, 2,57,000 to be precise. And this voting population is kind of been sliced into minority, majority, the kind of polarization we have seen at Nandigram, quite unprecedented in Bengal. Honestly, I haven't seen something so open being practiced any time in any previous election that I have covered. That polarization causing a sense of tension, panic, huge forces on the ground. We are being told, honestly, haven't seen too many of them around. Most of them are probably at the booths right now. And then there is going to be aerial survey with helicopters and drones. So the Election Commission doing its job, but at the end of the day, it's the voter who matters. How many of them are actually able to go and cast their vote? In Nandigram, that's a big question, given the tension on the ground.
Right, Moni, all these complaints that you're talking about in various booths of, booth agents not being allowed in, CRPF manhandling, etc., etc. What now? Will this be taken up with the Election Commission? What are you hearing from the Trinamool?
Yes, indeed. I mean, that's the whole point of listing all these complaints. Trinamool getting off to an early start and will certainly be bringing this to the attention of the Election Commission so that the Election Commission can act and advise CRP and other security agencies to step in where there may be problems cropping up. At least that is what is expected that the Trinamool will do. How, when the EC will react, when there might be corrective measures taken, we don't know. We are already into the second hour of polling.
All right, Moni, thanks so much for joining us with that. Monideepa there reporting from Nandigram. And let's go across to Ratnadeep, who joins us now from Silchar. And Ratnadeep, what are the reports there? There's been a heavy rainfall overnight. And what's the polling been like?
That's right. In fact, there have been heavy rains overnight in Barak Valley and other parts of Assam, but polling has already begun from 7 a.m. in all the 39 constituencies which are going to polls today. This is the crucial second phase. Region-wise, there is polling in the two tribal-dominated hill districts of Assam, Dima Hasao and Karbi Anglong. Also polling in crucial central Assam districts of Nagaon, Morigaon, Hojai, and in the lower Assam stronghold of BJP, the Rongia and Nalbari seat. But all eyes are on this region, Barak Valley, from where I am reporting. I am at Silchar at a polling station in Tarapur area of Silchar. There are two polling centers in this station. In fact, in one of the polling stations, there have been malfunctioning of the EVM. But in fact, heavy rains and malfunctioning of the EVMs did not stop these people to come out in large numbers. That just goes to show that excitement among the people in terms of these polls. Remember, Barak Valley is key because the 15 seats in Barak Valley are very crucial. Last time in 2016, when the polls took place here, BJP had swept the polls, winning 8 out of the 16 seats. The Congress could manage only 2, and AIUDF, its partner now in the Mahajot, they managed 2 seats. But this time around, the Mahajot seems to have turned the situation altogether. Talking about the Silchar seat, it is witnessing a key fight, a triangular fight between a new BJP candidate. The sitting BJP candidate was denied ticket, Dilip Paul, and he's fighting independent. And also Congress has a new candidate. You can see here there are a lot of young people in this queue that I can see. In fact, if I would like to talk to some of them, if आपसे बात करने की कोशिश करेंगे. आप फर्स्ट टाइम वोटर हैं, क्या नाम है आपका?
My name is Barsha and I'm giving vote for the very first time. All because of COVID I could give, or else I was there outside only.
Okay. Also it seems that you are a first time voter. I see that, there have been heavy rains. The EVM did not work for a long time, but you people were standing for hours together. A lot of excitement. How do you see these elections?
It's really a lovely opportunity to give to be a voter, and I like to. Actually, I don't know.
Okay, so there are the reactions for the first time voters. We'd also like to talk to. There are a lot of elderly people in this queue. मैडम आपसे बात करते हैं. क्या नाम है आपका?
माला देव.
मैडम, इस बार जो ये चुनाव हो रहे हैं बराक वैली में, हमने देखा कि बहुत कैंपेनिंग हुई बीजेपी और कांग्रेस दोनों ने ही. बराक वैली का जो चुनाव है, लोग कहते हैं कि बहुत पोलराइज्ड होगा. जबकि सिलचर में हिंदू डोमिनेटेड एरिया है, मगर करीमगंज और हैलाकंदी में मुस्लिम डोमिनेटेड एरिया है. तो आम जनता किन किन मुद्दों पे इस वोट दे रही है?
देखिए, हम लोग तो इतना पार्टिसिपेटरी नहीं समझता है. हम लोग जो कैंडिडेट है उसको देख के वोट दें, यही बात है हम लोगों का.
This is a very interesting angle which I have found during my pre-poll stories also in Barak Valley region, that there is a lot of focus among voters in terms of who the candidate is, who are they voting for, and perhaps that is going to be a major factor in this make or break elections. Remember, this time in the first phase, in the 47 seats which have gone to poll largely in Upper Assam region, watchers believe that BJP has an edge because last time they had swept that region. In the third phase, which will take place in the Lower Assam region, watchers believe that the Mahajot of Congress and AIUDF might have an edge, given the fact that you have more minority voters. But this second phase might be the key. So whoever takes a lead in this second phase might actually go on to form the next government, and Barak Valley might be the way to forming government in Assam.
All right, Ratnadeep, thanks so much for getting us the latest as Assam goes in for that second phase of polling. But turning our attention back to Bengal, and we're joined by Nandigram Banerjee, political analyst, as someone who supports the Trinamool. Also joining us, Jaideep Mazumdar, associate editor of Swarajya magazine. First to you, Anirban, there have been a series of complaints that have been made by the Trinamool about various polling booths, about polling agents not being allowed in, and also about the behavior of the CRPF.
Yeah, exactly, and this is nothing new. We have been witnessing inflow of outside elements in Nandigram, and not just from the other districts of West Bengal, but from other states like Bihar and Jharkhand. And there has been a series of complaints to the Election Commission for the last few days, but no formidable action from the Election Commission. I don't know why the CRPF is doing nothing. There has been many lodges within Nandigram which has been stuffed with these people from outside states. And why are they there? What are they doing with the BJP candidate at the BJP party offices? That is for the Election Commission to find out. We seriously anticipate that they are going to cause a lot of trouble today during the election times.
Right, allegations, taking place. Jaideep Mazumdar, your reaction to that?
There have been allegations and counter allegations, but what I find very interesting is in the past, when the left front was in power, it was the Trinamool used to make the same sort of allegations. Outsiders coming in. There's a lot of rigging going on. The police state police are favoring the Trinamool, the left. So it's a repeat of those allegations. And elections, as we all know, in Bengal have never been peaceful. That's a shameful legacy since the early 1970s, when the Congress used to rig the elections.
All right. So well, that's why we have 8 phases of elections in West Bengal this time around. Anirban, a very interesting development this morning has been the government U-turn on slashing the interest rates on small savings. And, this was obviously a misstep coming just on the eve of elections in the states. And the morning the announcement made by the Finance Minister that this order has been withdrawn and bureaucrats have been blamed.
No, I mean, just blaming the bureaucrats is not going to absolve the BJP of its responsibilities, because all the way through the last 7 years of regime, there has been a series of anti-people steps by them. And if you just blame it on the bureaucrats, that is not going to do a thing. Without the knowledge of the ministry, an order of this magnitude has passed through the fingers of the bureaucrats. I mean, nobody is going to believe that. It is only because of the huge backlash from the people, irrespective of parties or states, that the finance minister was probably forced to do something like this. And since she never takes any responsibility for any action of the government, she has blamed it on the bureaucrats.
Right, Jaideep, it's being described as an oversight, but now, a big U-turn by the finance ministry on this order.
I would tend to agree with Anirban on this. How do you blame bureaucrats for that? How do you ascribe it to bureaucrats? If the minister, I mean, that would represent a failing on the part of the minister.
Right. Now, if we talk about Nandigram, and that is what everybody is looking at today, it's being seen as the epicenter of this fight in Bengal, with Mamata Banerjee taking on her former protege turned rival now, Suvendu Adhikari. And, it's really been interesting. Anirban, Mamata Banerjee, in fact, fighting only from this seat, which was something quite surprising given the influence that the Adhikaris have in this region.
Yes, it's true that the Adhikaris have some influence in this region, but it is also true that the majority of this influence was because they were under the aegis of Ms. Mamata Banerjee, because without her, there would have been no rise of the Trinamool Congress out of the Nandigram movement in 2007. And without the rise of Trinamool Congress under Madam Banerjee, I don't think anybody would have known who Suvendu Adhikari is. Yes, Shishir Adhikari was an old politician from that area, but the rise to prominence, if I might say, of the entire Adhikari family was because they were with Madam Mamata Banerjee. And this election will actually very clearly define what exactly their influence was. It was not because of their own capacities, so to say, but it was because of the image that they used of Madam Mamata Banerjee in the region.
Right. Jaideep, your reaction to that, and also the allegations that, never before have elections here been so polarized.
Yes, I mean, it remains to be seen how much, what influence the Adhikaris have. That'll be apparent only on the 2nd of May. Shishir Adhikari, Suvendu's father, has been a prominent politician of the area. So it is again debatable. Many people on the ground, I've visited Nandigram a few times, so many people on the ground say that Mamata Banerjee rode to power through Nandigram and on the back of the Adhikari family. Without the Adhikari family, the Trinamool chairperson would not have been able to do anything much, or would not have been able to leverage Nandigram, but as in Singur, she did it single-handedly. I mean, she didn't have to depend on any local leaders. In fact, people became local leaders because of her. But in Nandigram, I'm told, like from the ground, people say that it's slightly different in it's very different in Nandigram. It remains to be seen on the 2nd of May, what actually, if the Adhikari family is actually that influential or they are not, and it's Mamata Banerjee who has been, influenced.
Right, Anirban, a quick response to that?
I won't agree completely with Mr. Majumdar, but yes, to some extent, the Adhikari family has some influence. I always said that, but without the presence of Mamata Banerjee's image, I don't think they would have become the family of the area. That is the point, and that will be proven after 2nd of May.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens on 2nd of May. Thank you both for joining us this morning as we're seeing this high stakes battle taking place, the second phase of elections in Bengal and the fight in Nandigram that is really the epicenter as it's being viewed by many, the epicenter of the fight between the BJP and the Trinamool, with Mamata Banerjee taking on Suvendu Adhikari, or Suvendu Adhikari taking on Mamata Banerjee there. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll return with more updates. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's get to the latest vaccine news. And COVID vaccination drive from today's has been extended to all people above the age of 45. The government has rolled out both online and offline methods for eligible citizens to book their COVID vaccine spot. Remember, the countrywide vaccination drive began on 16th of January. It was initially for healthcare workers, then extended on the 2nd of February to frontline workers. Then it was extended to the elderly and those above 45 years with serious illnesses. And now it's been opened up for everyone above 45 years of age. So far, India has vaccinated 6.3 crore people. They've got their first jabs at least. And currently, the vaccination rates every day is around 20 to 30 lakh, though many experts believe it should be increased to at least above 50 lakhs per day if we're to vaccinate a sizable portion of the population. And with it opening up for those above 45 years of age, it's hoped that the vaccination rates will go up significantly onwards. Now, Mumbai is seeing a surge of nearly 6,000 to 7,000 cases every day. The BMC says they plan to vaccinate 1 lakh per day. A massive spike in Maharashtra. Daily deaths are over 220. However, according to a survey done by the BMC, about 33% of people in slums are against vaccination. So, vaccine hesitancy, a huge challenge.
Mumbai is facing a twin challenge, surging COVID cases but also vaccine hesitancy. According to Mumbai Municipality Survey, about 33% of people in slums are against vaccination, despite scientists, doctors and government assuring them these are safe. 45-year-old Rajesh Kohli, staying in Dharavi, says he won't get the vaccine until he's convinced it is safe.
मैंने खुद ने अब तक वैक्सीन नहीं लिया है। ये सरकार बिल्कुल सही ढंग से बता नहीं रही है लोगों को। एक क्लियर जस्टिफिकेशन होना चाहिए, क्लियर संदेश होना चाहिए जो हमको ये समझाए कि हमको वैक्सीन किस तरीके से लेना चाहिए और उसके बाद में क्या करना चाहिए।
Like Rajesh, Abdul Rashid, a 55-year-old driver, is also worried.
उसमें कई लोगों का इंतकाल हो जा रहा है, कई लोग किसी को साइड इफेक्ट हो रहा है, किसी को तकलीफ हो रही है। हमको जिस दिन लगेगा कि वैक्सीन सक्सेस है, हम जाके ले लेंगे।
Cases in Dharavi are up by 383, nearly 9% in a week. A separate vaccination booth was started 9 days ago, but only 1,100 people have got themselves vaccinated.
लोगों को अभी तक समझ नहीं है वैक्सीनेशन का, कि उनको डर बैठा हुआ है मन में कि वैक्सीनेशन लेने के बाद हमारा कुछ गलत इफेक्ट नहीं हो जाए। तो वही हमारे प्रयास यही है कि उनको समझाए कि भाई वैक्सीनेशन से कोई तकलीफ आएगी नहीं, साइड इफेक्ट्स कम है, इसके कोई साइड इफेक्ट्स नहीं है। और वहाँ पे जो जिसे वैक्सीनेशन लेने जाए उधर डॉक्टर्स भी है, तो वो भी उनको गाइड करते हैं।
Situation in Mankhurd and Govandi slums is also similar. An NGO Apnale, which worked with municipality there, says the solution is door-to-door vaccination.
घर घर जाकर वैक्सीन देना, सारे लोगों को वैक्सीन देना, और जिसको ज़रूरत होगी, तकलीफ होगी, वो वापस हॉस्पिटल आ सकता है। लेकिन सिर्फ इस डर से लोगों को वैक्सीन घर घर ना जा करके देना, मुझे लगता है कि इस स्ट्रैटेजी की बहुत बड़ी कमजोरी है।
About 55% of city's population lives in high-density slums. The municipality is planning to open separate booths for these areas. They wanted a door-to-door vaccination, but the centre says it hasn't received a specific request.
One of the ways to control the spread of COVID is to vaccinate in a major way. But if there are any apprehensions, those fears need to be addressed as well. In Mumbai, with Pooja Bharadwaj and camera person Praveen Ji Rohit, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
A spike in COVID cases in Bengaluru means more children are testing positive too. The city corporation, however, says there is no real surge when it comes to cases among the very young.
children, as I told you, that out of 32,000 school students who have been tested during this month, only about 121 positive cases were found. We can clearly say that it is children are not infected in large numbers.
One big difference from the first wave that could account for more infections: schools are open for some grades. Not just school, children are out of home much more since the days of the lockdown. The Chief Minister had made it clear that despite the rising COVID numbers, schools would stay open.
ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಆಯಿತು. ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಬರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನ್ ಇಂದ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಮನೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಜೊತೆ ಕುಣಿದು ಕುಪ್ಪಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದು ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡೋ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಆಗುವಂಥದ್ದು ಬಹಳ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಿರಿಯರ ಮತ್ತು ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಸಲಹೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದರಿಂದ
there is no proposal for closure of any schools. The situation doesn't warrant closing of schools as of now.
Not all students and parents are convinced.
Better to stop the school because only we are having one kids, no, so we should be aware of it, and aged persons also there at home, so it will be a problem.
So in all the schools they are taking alternate days, but in our school regular days they are taking. We want alternate days.
With COVID protocols not always observed, everybody is more vulnerable, and that includes the youngest members of our society. With Kumar and Govind, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Now, we spoke to the AIIMS director, Dr. Randeep Guleria, on the announcement by Pfizer on their vaccine being suitable for children and asked when we can expect this in India. Also, whether Indians are not careful enough about COVID and what could have caused this surge once again. He also said that vaccine hesitancy is a huge challenge.
Dr. Guleria, how would you respond to those who say that India never was very careful, people just never cared, and somehow or the other the numbers were declining significantly, and then all of a sudden with the same behavior the numbers started rising, which is why this talk of this variant is gaining. I mean, there seems to be logic in that.
Yeah, so that is a possibility. I don't deny that there is. This is exactly like you said what happened in the UK, that they were also in a better position somewhere in September, October, and then they had this huge surge before Christmas. And we are seeing that right now around Holi because of the fact that the same sort of situation is repeating itself. And therefore, it's quite likely that what has led to this increased surge is also the virus changing or mutating, and we would just need to link it with the epidemiological data. But the fact that that data currently is not there doesn't mean it's not happening.
Right.
It's likely, logically, that if there's a certain surge in cases, there is something which is happening which the virus is now becoming more infectious, but it's also that we are allowing that to happen. We are allowing the virus to really spread in our own community because I would say from January, February, when we've had the vaccine rollout started, people have said that now COVID is over in our country. You have to just talk to the common man and he'll say, now there is no COVID, I can just go around.
No, it's a huge problem. No getting away from that, Dr. Guleria. Absolutely. There is no COVID appropriate behavior. The Punjab government is going from mohalla to mohalla, I believe in Ludhiana, identifying areas and then bringing in people. If for whatever the reasons people aren't coming, should the government not look at going to people in the most vulnerable areas and then telling them, please come outside your home, take the injection?
I agree with that. We have to look at a different strategy. And I think one strategy we need to look at is reaching out to the people. We need to develop a strategy where we can reach out to them and give them the vaccination, but doing it in a way that we are confident that we can take care of any adverse effect which happens. Remember, if we have a situation like that and we have a very serious adverse effect, it will be a huge setback to the whole program. So we need to develop a strategy where we can go from area to area, have a mechanism where you can set up like a small camp, have a healthcare person there, have an ambulance ready, have all the injections that you need for side effects available, and then you really go to that area and vaccinate as many people as you can who are in the high risk group, and then do that in multiple areas and move on. Okay. So I think a strategy like that needs to be developed because we need to have a two-way mechanism. One is for people to come to the vaccination site, but also the vaccination site to go to the people. That will only be able to really help in increasing the number of people we vaccinate per day.
Now, outside in our country, Pfizer is saying, they've come out with their reports, Their vaccine is 100% effective on 12 to 15-year-old children. Now, in our system, we have said that Pfizer can't come in now. They have to do all sorts of tests, this, that and the other. Where does India stand now in terms of having vaccines which work on children? Because we never talk about children.
No, I think this is very important. If we really have to control the pandemic and have to get children back to school and be comfortable with that, we will have to look at a vaccine which is there for children itself. And I'm aware that both the vaccine candidates which are being used in India are doing studies to look at safety and the dose as far as children are concerned. Because remember, you can't say children are little adult. They are different in terms of both the dose that is required and the side effect profile that can happen because of the vaccination. So we need more data. But I would really say that if we are able to get more vaccines, whatever be the companies, that would be useful for our country, because that will allow us to vaccinate more and more people. And as we've been saying, that if we are able to vaccinate a larger number, we will be able to get some degree of immunity as far as the population is concerned. But the rider here is that we need to get enough people to come forward and get themselves vaccinated as we try and cover the high risk group one by one. Currently, it's not an issue that we're running out of doses. The issue is that there are still a large number of vaccination sites where people are not coming, and we're not able to really fill that gap.
So, Doctor, why
we need to work on a strategy where we can actually really have enough vaccinations being done on a day, maybe ramp it up to 8 or 10 million a day, because that is what we will need to do if we really need to achieve our target.
All right, so there you saw concerns about the COVID numbers going up and how people aren't practicing COVID protocols. But today, the Mahakumbh begins in Haridwar. Remember, it's one of the largest gatherings anywhere in the world, as millions will attend. So that is going ahead at Haridwar, the Mahakumbh, this amid this second wave of coronavirus. The Kumbh officially starts today. The COVID appropriate behavior and norms of social distancing have gone for a toss there, even though there's a lot of talk of protocols and rules being put in place. COVID cases in the state have seen a rise of over 100%. Meanwhile, one of the rules is that a negative RT-PCR report is mandatory for people who are travelling from 12 states to Uttarakhand. So we'll have to wait and see how much that is strictly adhered to. But the Mahakumbh begins today in the midst of this second wave of the pandemic. Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat, and we'll get you all the polling news today. Voting for the second phase of elections in 39 seats in Assam and 30 in West Bengal is taking place this amid very, very tight security. The big one is Nandigram. All eyes are on the Nandigram seat, where Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is taking on her former loyalist and adversary, Suvendu Adhikari of the BJP. There have also been several complaints already in Bengal on certain polling booths, and complaints filed by the Trinamool, in fact, listed out by them poll booth by poll booth about various actions. In some places, they're saying the candidate wasn't able to reach the polling booth, that polling agents aren't being allowed in, that the CRPF has been roughing up some of the people. So several complaints. Suvendu Adhikari has already cast his vote. He arrived at his polling booth earlier today and cast his vote. And when asked by the media, he spoke about how people should vote for development in the area. Well, let's go across to Monideepa now for more. And Monideepa, what are the reports coming in so far? There have been several complaints made by the Trinamool of, certain actions at the polling booths.
That's right. In multiple booths in Nandigram, that's what the Trinamool is complaining. There have been issues like an EVM malfunction, the machine hasn't been changed, or some alleged BJP workers have been preventing polling agents from going in, or Trinamool people are being heckled. So innumerable complaints of this coming in. But I must say that we've just been going to some of the booths. There may have been a brief spell of a problem, but in many places that has been sorted out. But not all. Nandigram certainly tense, no question about that. Not that you would know, looking at where I am right now, a huge number of people have queued up here in booth number 11, and all the COVID procedures are going on. If the camera could turn the other way around, temperatures are being checked, sanitizer is being distributed, so on the surface everything looks routine. But no question, this is a special election for the people of Nandigram. Who do they have as candidate? Suvendu Adhikari, their former MLA, who is now with a different party, and the Chief Minister of the state. So it's a big thing. Let me ask this gentleman over here how he feels this time's election is different. Dada, आपका नाम क्या है?
रंजीत माइती।
तो रंजीत जी, आप यहीं के रहने वाले हैं?
यहीं का रहने वाला हूँ।
तो आप बताएं कि इस बार इलेक्शन कुछ अलग सा है ना?
अलग सा है, पर
एकदम मुख्यमंत्री
का जबरदस्त टक्कर है यहाँ पे।
हाँ, कैसे आप बताइए थोड़ा। एक तरफ
बड़ा
नेता
है।
हाँ, तो ऐसे हालत में वोट देना सोच समझ के देना। अरे बाप रे, तो आप क्या चीज को सर में लेके आप वोट
प्रोग्रेस हो?
ओके, डेवलपमेंट चाहते हैं ये भाई साहब, और ये जो महिलाएं हैं ऐसे सज धज के, दे हैव कम ओवर हियर ऑल ड्रेस्ड अप टू कास्ट देयर वोट। দিদি কে বলবেন, এবার আপনাদের তো বড় বড় সব নেতারা এখানটায় লড়ছে, খুব শক্ত না ডিসাইড করা কে কাকে ভোট দেব?
কাকে ভোট দেই?
হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু আগে তো কোনোদিন মুখ্যমন্ত্রী এসে লড়েনি এখানটায়।
সেটাই হচ্ছে কথা তো।
হ্যাঁ, এটা আপনি কি বলবেন?
আমরা সবাইকে ভোট দেব, সবাই সঙ্গে থাকবো, কাছে সবার কাছে
সবাই একসঙ্গে।
হ্যাঁ।
আচ্ছা, ভয় লাগছে কি এবারে একটু গন্ডগোল
হতে পারে? ভয়ের কিছু আছে? পুলিশ প্রশাসন আছে, তারা তার নির্বাচন করবে, আমরা ভয় করবো কেন? কিসের জন্য ভয় করবো?
জানি না, সবাই বলছে এইবার নন্দীগ্রামে একেবারে
হাড্ডাহাড্ডি হচ্ছে তো।
হচ্ছে?
হ্যাঁ।
তাই নাকি?
হ্যাঁ।
আর হাড্ডাহাড্ডি হলে ভয় লাগে না? কি ঝামেলা হবে?
না না, ঝামেলা হবে না।
ওকে, very brave women over here. They say, of course, it is a hadda-haddi ladai, which in exact translation means the clash of bones. But they are not worried. There are reports of tension here and there, but all queued up, all dressed up to cast their vote today. Back to you.
All right, Moni, thanks so much for joining us. With that, we'll return to you for more updates. Let's now go across to NDTV's Ratnadeep. And remember, Assam too is voting in this second phase of elections. Ratnadeep reports from Silchar. There has been rainfall overnight, but that hasn't affected the people coming in and lining up to cast their votes. There are 4 ministers and a deputy speaker who are among the candidates today in 39 of the state's 126 seats.
That's right. In fact, we are coming to you from Silchar, the main town in Barak Valley region, and it has been raining very heavily since last night. But this morning you can see, despite heavy rains, turn up is good at the polling station. We are coming to you from a polling station at Tarapur in Silchar, one of the prime localities, and you can see here senior citizens have queued up early morning. This just goes to show the excitement among people for the elections here. Remember, these 39 seats are very crucial. This is going to be a test for Congress and its allies, because in the first phase elections in the 47 seats, largely it was Congress which fought the BJP and the AGP combined. But in this phase, where among the 39 seats you have 15 seats in Barak Valley region, the Bengali heartland. You also have the 2 hill districts, the tribal districts of Dima Hasao and Karbi Anglong going to polls, and parts of central Assam, particularly Nagaon, Hojai. These are the areas which are known as the cradle for the BJP. So BJP's hardcore, hardcore politics, hardcore Hindutva agenda on test today. Also, this is the first time that Congress and its allies, particularly in Barak Valley, you have pockets where the AIUDF is very strong. So they will be their alliance will be put to test. Now, in the last elections in Barak Valley region, which has always seen polls getting polarized on religious line. Out of 15 seats, 8 have gone to the BJP. The AIUDF had won 5 and the Congress could manage only 2. But this time, with the alliance between the AIUDF and Congress, rather the Congress and AIUDF being the main 2 parties in the Mahajot, they have emerged as a challenger to the BJP in its stronghold of Barak Valley. And you can see behind me, this queue just goes to show the excitement among people. Despite heavy rains, there have been very heavy rains since last night, but people have turned out in large numbers. You can see elderly people, senior citizens actually leading from the front.
All right, Ratnadeep reporting from Silchar in Assam. But let's turn our focus back on Bengal, where the second phase of elections is taking place. We're now joined by Smita Gupta, senior journalist, Tausif Ahmed Khan, political analyst and advocate, and also someone who supports the Trinamool, and Shoaib Danial, senior assistant editor of The Scroll. Now, Smita Gupta, first to you, finally, this very, very bitterly fought election. The Nandigram seat is being viewed as the epicenter of this entire fight. Of course, we have 6 more phases of elections to go in Bengal. Already several complaints are pouring in by the Trinamool of, certain issues that are emerging at polling booths, from the CRPF manhandling people. That's one of the complaints they've put in. Also, that polling agents aren't being allowed in.
Yes, actually, one of the key issues in this West Bengal election has been the role of the Election Commission. In fact, former senior officials of the Election Commission who I spoke to have expressed their great discomfort with the way the Election Commission has been, if you like, to use the word partisan in this election. For instance, not allowing local police within 100 meters of the booth. In any case, West Bengal elections historically have been violent. There have always been problems. But this time, I think the role of the Election Commission has really been quite suspect. The only thing is that because there's been so much violence in the past, nobody takes the Trinamool's complaints that seriously, which is unfortunate. And today, as you mentioned, is the battle for Nandigram. Nandigram has great symbolic value, as we all know, because that is where Mamata Banerjee began her right to power, by opposing the land acquisition that was promoted by the former left front government. And she is also in contest with her former lieutenant, Suvendu Adhikari, who along with his other family members played a big role in this Midnapur district area.
Right, Tausif Ahmed Khan, your reaction to these reports of trouble, and as Smita was saying, it's being said that, oh, this always happens in Bengal, there's always trouble, there's always complaint, there's always been violence. It has this legacy of violence during elections. There's nothing new. Earlier it was, the left, Congress, then it was the Trinamool, and now Trinamool versus BJP.
This time around, something new is happening, something new which Election Commission has allowed, and that is the election poll agents from other constituencies are being allowed to, come and sit. And this is especially on the demand of BJP. And after the first phase of elections was over, after the reports of EVM malfunctioning came to surface, Trinamool leaders went to the Election Commission and asked them to change this, new system that the Election Commission has come up with. Generally, what has been the practice is the people who are from the constituency where vote is being conducted, where poll booths are, would sit in those poll booths. But Election Commission, on the request of BJP, has changed the rule and has allowed people who are not necessarily from that constituency or from that polling area to come and sit in the poll booth. And secondly, as was just pointed out, the local policemen are also not present. Now, despite these issues, BJP, may be banking on the Suvendu Adhikari factor, but this Suvendu Adhikari factor is nothing when it comes to Mamata Banerjee factor, because the entire, as we have seen, the vote share, as I can see on the screen as you are showing, there is huge number of women voters. And these women voters are, majority of them are going to vote for Mamata Banerjee, because this is the it's been a long time there has been any women candidate from Nandigram. Perhaps, if I'm not wrong, this is the first time Chief Minister as a women candidate is contesting from Nandigram, and this will appeal to the female voters. So BJP Trinamool is very positive of the outcome of the result in the second phase, and especially in Nandigram, Chief Minister is going to win with a thumping majority, is what
we'll have to wait
Trinamool
for
is
the
expecting.
2nd of May for that. Shoaib Danial, when Mamata Banerjee announced she'll only be contesting from Nandigram, it was quite a statement that she made, that she sees no risk to herself. Some even described it as foolhardy, given that the Adhikaris are very, very powerful, very, very influential. That entire family is very influential in this area.
Yeah, Gargi, this was actually vintage Mamata. This is Mamata taking what seemed like or what projected as a spur of the moment decision, which was actually quite risky. I think whatever the statements the Trinamool puts out, I think everybody, even within the Trinamool, realizes that it's a tough fight. As a woman voter just told Monadeepa, it's a hadda-haddi lodai. So this is a tough fight. So that's one thing. So obviously the risk Mamata has taken. But it's also, in a way, it's a calculated risk, because it's done two things. One is it's enthused the Trinamool cadre that, they're generally leading from the front. She's, taking bullets right up at the front of the ranks. That's number one. Number two, it's actually stemmed what could have been a huge exodus from that region after Suvendu Adhikari left, which has not happened because Mamata came down and fought from there. So, in a way, the two things are linked. The fact that the BJP is depending on this massive central presence of paramilitary troops shows that actually the organization of the TMC, by and large, has not gone with Mr. Adhikari and has stuck with the original faction of the party. And that is why these paramilitary troops are being brought in to sort of counteract the Trinamool's organizational advantage on the ground.
All right, Smita Gupta, one of the interesting, factors in this entire election has been this, insider-outsider debate. While the Trinamool tried to, blame the BJP or call out the outsider factor of the BJP in West Bengal, in Nandigram, it was Mamata Banerjee who faced this insider-outsider issue with Suvendu Adhikari calling her an outsider in this constituency.
Yes, Mamata Banerjee has had a tough time in Nandigram. You can see the number of days she has spent, because a lot is at stake here. As Shoaib just pointed out, she took the risk, that is typical of Mamata, to take such a risk, to lead from the front, because it kind of enthuses her cadres. But we saw her recite the Chondi part here to prove that she was a better Hindu, more in tune with Bengali Hindus. This is where she had her unfortunate accident. She has spent a great deal of time to prove, and she has also, I think, emphasized the fact, her association with the Nandigram agitation, which she led from the front. I mean, of course, there were local leaders like Suvendu Adhikari and his family members, but she led from the front. But in Bengal as a whole, this outsider versus insider battle will be very interesting to watch, because while a lot of us, I am a Bengali too, would like to believe in Bengali exceptionalism, that, there is a tradition of, social reformers, Bidya Raja Ram Mohan Roy, cultural icons like Rabindranath Tagore, and so on. But there is also the wounds left over from partition. And that is where the BJP has tried to, BJP has, I would say, to a great extent in many parts of rural Bengal, has succeeded in sort of bringing alive those old wounds. And in a way, you will see that the cries of Jai Shri Ram and Bajrang Bali and all, you'll see them in rural Bengal also, It is, it's not that it's only the land of Kali, Saraswati, Durga anymore. You'll see this in Bengali serials today, where Bajrang Bali pujas and all are very much part of the landscape. So it means it's part of popular culture. So this election will tell us a little more about how all this will pan out.
Absolutely. And Tausif, Mamata just 2 days ago admitted that she indeed made that call that was made to a former Trinamool member who had joined the BJP. That call was leaked out, had been shared, quite extensively online. And the BJP had tried to say that this just shows how weak she is in Nandigram, that she's actually beseeching a former party member to come back and how he refused.
On the contrary, it shows how aggressive and how confident she is in her campaign.
All right.
Someone must have told her, being and every candidate or in each constituency is supposed to reach out to the voters. And especially when someone who has been the former party member and who must be waiting for a phone call from his party supremo, there was no harm for Mamata Banerjee to reach out to her and ask him. Someone must have advised Mamata Banerjee that he is waiting for a phone call. If you could make a phone call to him, he would come back and he would vote for you. And there was nothing wrong in Mamata Banerjee to reach out to the voter in her constituency and to seek votes. That is the part and parcel of the democratic process.
Right, well, that's one way of looking at it. Of course, there were then another call that got leaked out as well, and it was like, leak call versus leak call. Shoaib Daniel, what's been interesting is just on the eve of the election today in Nandigram, you had Mamata Banerjee actually writing to several opposition leaders, to Sonia Gandhi as well, and she's asked everyone to come together to take on the BJP.
Yeah, that was a bit. I'm personally not sure what to make of that, given what is happening in West Bengal, where
it seems she's already thinking ahead in a sense. She's on the eve of the biggest election of her life in a sense, with Suvendu Adhikari and the might of the BJP, and here she's already writing, in the long term, wanting the opposition to come together.
I mean, it's a bit inexplicable, because if you look at the situation in West Bengal, one of her fiercest critics is actually Adhir Chaudhary, the state president of the Congress. So it's a bit inexplicable. It's one of those Mamata doozers that we'll sort of be unpacking for the next few months.
Right, Smita?
Well, I think she should have done this at the outset of the election, ahead of the elections. She should have pointed out how important the results of the West Bengal elections will be, not just for the state, but for the entire country. Because if you look at the states that are north of the Vindhyas in this country, the BJP has been either in power or is in power in virtually every state. I don't think there is any other state. It is West Bengal alone. Even in perhaps Odisha, but Odisha also, I think it's been an alliance partner. But in Bengal was the one state, and it's a state that sends 42 members of parliament. So it's a big state. So she should have made this appeal right at the beginning. She should have maybe talked to Sharad Pawar and made sure that the Congress and the left, they should have fought together, because even for the Congress and the left, whatever the stakes in Bengal, nationally they claim they are opposed to the BJP.
Right,
so
but a very different picture, in the state, as Shoaib was just pointing out. Tausif, final word from you on this?
No, indeed, Bengal's election is very important, because this is about politics entering into a new era. Will the regional parties lose their importance, or will the regional parties still have role to play in national politics? This is where we are heading, and we have seen, many regional parties are still holding their grounds. But should India decide to have a unitary form of government, should India decide to have a one party or two party, it would be proper to call two party. Basically, are we heading to a one party rule? Because the constitution provides us has given us a multi-party democracy, and for which regional parties have to exist and have to perform well. And this campaign, we have heard a lot about this insider and outsider. This is something not new in Indian election campaign. We have seen when Bihar went to poll, this was the same tactic adopted by the BJP alliance, where Nitish Kumar was calling other party as Bahari and himself to be Bihari. So if Mamata Banerjee is adopting today the same line, to keep the regional party relevant in the Indian politics, there is nothing wrong.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you all for joining me today on the show as Bengal goes in for the second phase of elections. 30 seats polling taking place right now. And the big one, that's Nandigram, which is really being seen as the epicenter of this battle for Bengal, where Mamata Banerjee is taking on Suvendu Adhikari. Polling is taking place. Trinamool has made several complaints about polling stations where there has been violence, where they've accused the CRPF of not allowing in polling agents. We'll get you more on that. Time for us to slip into a short break. Welcome back. Besides elections, the other big news today is steep cuts on interest rates on small savings schemes that were announced yesterday evening have now been rolled back by the government today morning, with the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in fact tweeting early this morning declaring that orders issued by oversight would be withdrawn. The cuts in schemes ranging from the National Savings Certificates and Public Provident Fund would have hurt millions of middle-class depositors. It also came in the middle of elections in several states. Well, let's go across now to Sunil Prabhu and Vaidyanathan for more on this story. And Vaidya, first to use sources, since we're in the middle of elections and it was on the eve of elections, the decision was announced, and this morning as elections are taking place in Bengal and Assam, that U-turn has been taken. Tell us about what the Election Commission is saying, whether permission was taken.
So election sources told NDTV that the government has sought a permission, the no objection certificate from the poll panel on periodic review of the finance issues. So they said it's a periodic quarterly review. They wanted a permission, but they did not inform whether the interest rate will be lowered or not. So EC sources said, since it's a periodic review, we have given them permission to go ahead. But sources also told, saying that they never mentioned whether the interest rate will be lowered or whatever it may be. But they said it's a policy decision. They will have to take a call. But interestingly, sources also surprised in the morning after seeing the Twitter of Finance Minister that they have withdrawn the complete lowering of the interest rates. But from the EC, yes, the government has sought the permission from the Election Commission for the quarterly periodic review.
All right. And Sunil, we do know that this decision, according to government sources, is being blamed on the bureaucrats, that they took this decision. But it's been a huge blunder, with this announcement, the uproar, and then the U-turn. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, in fact, tweeted after Nirmala Sitharaman's tweet, asking her, really, was it an oversight in issuing the order to decrease interest rates, or was it an election-driven hindsight in withdrawing it?
Well, Gargi, it's everybody's guess, as you are well aware. An oversight is what is cited by the Finance Minister in a tweet, which has been given to keep this on hold and abeyance and withdrawing that decision that was taken last night. As you're well aware, in the government scheme of things, everything needs the approval of not only the Finance Minister, but the Prime Minister's office. And how did they go about this entire decision without the concurrence? What was this hindsight? Was the hindsight actually of the oversight? Because there are state elections that are underway where polling is taking place in West Bengal and Assam. And to Vaidya's point, which EC sources are saying, this is a carte blanche for periodic review does not mean that they can change the level playing field. It's quite surprising that the Election Commission, and this is what political parties are pointing out, the role of the Election Commission, which is supposed to be a free and fair umpire, is under scrutiny now for the fact that this cannot be a carte blanche approach where you can change. 1 minute you say go ahead with the decision, the next minute you withdraw the decision. This has never happened, and there have to be specific proposals on matters like this. This has been the history in terms of how election commissions function. But anyway, this is a new system. Having said that, political parties are now, of course, asking the Finance Minister to resign, or what she calls now an oversight. Is it basically elections? Or what exactly is the reason behind the government going ahead and withdrawing, which is hurting lakhs of investors and people who are responsible for this?
All right, Sunil, thanks so much for joining us with that. Sunil and Vaidya both, thank you for joining us with those updates. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll get you the latest on the COVID vaccination drive. And from today, those above 45 years are eligible for the vaccine. Welcome back. Let's get you the vaccine news now. And from today, everyone aged 45 and above will be able to get the COVID vaccine. Earlier, people between the ages of 45 to 60 were required to present a medical certificate about serious illnesses in order to get the vaccine. In Delhi, the vaccinations will take place at 500 vaccination centers spread across 192 hospitals in the city. In Delhi, the number of people aged above 45 is estimated to be over 65 lakh, while those between 45 and 60 years is 40 lakh. The centre had earlier asked states to vaccinate all above 45 in 2 weeks, especially in the districts where they are seeing a surge in coronavirus cases. Well, let's go across to Sukirti now for more. And Sukirti, so far the vaccine rate every day has been around 20 to 30 lakhs. Hopefully with this next phase in which everyone over 45 is eligible, we're going to see that going up quite a bit. People have been saying, experts have been saying it should be at least 50 lakhs per day. What's it been like? What's it like at the vaccine centre?
Well, yes, Gargi, we are here at the Max Super Speciality Hospital in Saket in the national capital. And here, as you can see, there's a big crowd here already. This is just the starting. The vaccinations begin at 9 a.m. and there are a lot of people here. But of course, it's a mix of age groups. But there are, of course, people who are above 45 and without comorbidities. They've been waiting for this day. Many such people here. I have one such gentleman over here. He's just been vaccinated. We'll speak to him for more. Sir, सबसे पहले अपना नाम बताएं और बताएं कि क्या ये इस कैटेगरी के ओपन अप होने का आप इंतजार कर रहे थे कि कब सरकार अनाउंस करेगी और अब जब आज फाइनली वैक्सीन लग गई आपको तो कैसा महसूस कर रहे हैं?
माय नेम इज राजन सोडी एंड आई थिंक इट्स अ वेरी गुड मूव. दिस शुड हैव कम अर्लियर बिकॉज ऑफ कोर्स पीपल हु आर ओल्डर they need to be vaccinated earlier because they are more vulnerable. But I also feel that it is the younger population which is moving around and doing all the work, and probably they are more likely to carry the infection if they get it. So the younger population should also be vaccinated as fast as possible. The government should open up so many more centers to be able to vaccinate the population as quickly as possible.
Are there other people in your family as well who are in this category and who will be lining up for vaccination soon?
Yes, they have already got it done actually. They are in the higher age bracket. So they've got it done and they feel much safer and happier.
Thank you, sir, for speaking to us. Gargi, we'll just get you a few more voices of people who are also waiting for their turn. That gentleman there had already been vaccinated. There are some other people here. Ma'am, tell us your name and, how is this getting vaccinated going to make a difference in your life in terms of the profession you are in, the number of people you interact with? Is it going to make you feel safer?
I'm Anjali and I feel it's a very good move from the government side. First, for the mental satisfaction, we need vaccination for all. But being part of the community, we need to get vaccinated so that more and more people can do it at the right time. So we need to move it ahead for the push, for the family and everybody. We need to do it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for speaking to us. So, very pertinent points being made here, of course, as the man over here said, that it's the younger population, people in the lesser age groups that are moving around, that are interacting with a lot more number of people, and they are the ones who need to get vaccinated as well. And so, this is day one, but as you can see, a lot of people eager to get vaccinated, and the ones who've already received a shot also very happy.
All right, Sukirti, and so far in our kitty, we have only 2 vaccines. That's Covaxin and Covishield. And can we soon expect another vaccine?
Well, yes, today the subject expert committee of the Indian drug regulator is set to meet regarding the Russia-developed vaccine Sputnik V. And for that, the meeting is going to be held today at some point in the afternoon. The last time they had met, they had sought more data from Dr. Reddy's, which is the Indian manufacturer for this particular vaccine. What's most important is that it has an efficacy of 91.6% right after Moderna and Pfizer, which have an efficacy in that range. So for India, it will be a big boost if it gets its 3rd vaccine today. So all eyes now on the SEC meeting. They will be making a recommendation either for or against this vaccine, and the final decision will be taken by DCGI, which is the Drug Controller General of India.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us with that, Sukirti, and hopefully that go-ahead will come, given that Sputnik is now in high demand in countries, even in Europe as well. Now, we spoke to AIIMS Director Dr. Randeep Guleria on the announcement made by Pfizer yesterday on their vaccine being suitable for children, and asked when can we expect this in India, that adolescents can get the vaccine so they can go ahead and attend school safely. Also, we asked him whether Indians are not careful enough about COVID and what could have caused this upsurge. He also said that vaccine hesitancy remains a huge challenge in the vaccine drive.
Now, outside in our country, Pfizer is saying, they've come out with their reports, their vaccine is 100% effective on 12 to 15-year-old children. Now, in our system, we have said that Pfizer can't come in now. They have to do all sorts of tests, this, that and the other. Where does India stand now in terms of having vaccines which work on children? Because we never talk about children.
No, I think this is very important. If we really have to control the pandemic and have to get children back to school and be comfortable with that, we will have to look at a vaccine which is there for children itself. And I'm aware that both the vaccine candidates which are being used in India are doing studies to look at safety and the dose as far as children are concerned. Because remember, you can't say children are little adult. They are different in terms of both the dose that is required and the side effect profile that can happen because of the vaccination. So we need more data. But I would really say that if we are able to get more vaccines, whatever be the companies, that would be useful for our country, because that will allow us to vaccinate more and more people. And as we've been saying, that if we are able to vaccinate a larger number, we will be able to get some degree of immunity as far as the population is concerned. But the rider here is that we need to get enough people to come forward and get themselves vaccinated as we try and cover the high risk group one by one. Currently, it's not an issue that we're running out of doses. The issue is that there are still a large number of vaccination sites where people are not coming and we're not able to really fill that gap.
So, Doctor, why can't
we need to work on a strategy where we can actually really have enough vaccinations being done on a day, maybe ramp it up to 8 or 10 million a day, because that is what we will need to do if we really need to achieve our target.
Dr. Guleria, how would you respond to those who say that India never was very careful, people just never cared, and somehow or the other the numbers were declining significantly, and then all of a sudden with the same behavior the numbers started rising, which is why this talk of this variant is gaining. I mean, there seems to be logic in that.
Yeah, so that is a possibility. I don't deny that there is. This is exactly like you said what happened in the UK, that they were also in a better position somewhere in September, October, and then they had this huge surge before Christmas. And we are seeing that right now around Holi, because of the fact that the same sort of situation is repeating itself. And therefore, it's quite likely that what has led to this increased surge is also the virus changing or mutating, and we would just need to link it with epidemiological data. But the fact that that data currently is not there doesn't mean it's not happening.
Right.
It's likely, logically, that if there's a certain surge in cases, there is something which is happening which the virus is now becoming more infectious, but it's also that we are allowing that to happen. We are allowing the virus to really spread in our own community, because I would say from January, February, when we've had the vaccine rollout started, people have said that now COVID is over in our country. You have to just talk to the common man and he'll say, now there is no COVID, I can just go around.
No, it's a huge problem. No getting away from that, Dr. Guleria. Absolutely. COVID, there is no COVID appropriate behavior. The Punjab government is going from mohalla to mohalla, I believe in Ludhiana, identifying areas and then bringing in people. If for whatever the reasons people aren't coming, should the government not look at going to people in the most vulnerable areas and then telling them, please come outside your home, take the injection?
I agree with that. We have to look at a different strategy. And I think one strategy we need to look at is reaching out to the people. We need to develop a strategy where we can reach out to them and give them the vaccination, but doing it in a way that we are confident that we can take care of any adverse effect which happens. Remember, if we have a situation like that and we have a very serious adverse effect, it will be a huge setback to the whole program. So we need to develop a strategy where we can go from area to area, have a mechanism where you can set up like a small camp, have a healthcare person there, have an ambulance ready, have all the injections that you need for side effects available, and then you really go to that area and vaccinate as many people as you can who are in the high risk group, and then do that in multiple areas and move on. Okay. So I think a strategy like that needs to be developed, because we need to have a two-way mechanism. One is for people to come to the vaccination site, but also the vaccination site to go to the people. That will only be able to really help in increasing the number of people we vaccinate per day.
Now, voting taking place in the second phase of elections in Assam and West Bengal. In Assam, there are 39 seats that are going to elections today. In West Bengal, 30. And till 9 a.m., if we can bring you the voter turnout numbers, West Bengal had seen a 15.7% turnout, while Assam has seen 10.5% voter turnout so far. Well, with that, time for us to slip into a short break. On the other side, we report from the Kumbh Mela in Haridwar that begins today in the midst of this COVID second wave of the pandemic. Welcome back. Now, India is in the midst of the second wave of the pandemic, and the Health Ministry has been asking everyone to continue following COVID protocols and remain careful. But today also the Kumbh officially starts in Uttarakhand's Haridwar, where millions will gather. It's considered one of the largest gatherings anywhere in the world, and there are going to be strict COVID protocols, however, in place. And people who attend the Kumbh will have to get a negative RT-PCR test. Well, let's go across to NDTV's Akshay, who joins us from there. So, Akshay, tell us how are these rules being implemented? You know, what are the preparations like over there?
Well, Gargi, as far as travelling to Uttarakhand is concerned, yes, there is one thing that you have to show a negative RT-PCR report, and if that is not available with you, you can get tested as far as the borders are concerned. But after entering into the state, and as far as the main site is concerned, the ground zero of Kumbh Mela is concerned, we are right now at Har Ki Paidi, and this is the place where millions are expected to take bath in this upcoming month, especially on Shahi Snans. But even on the first day, you can take an idea of how exactly it's going to be, because on the first day thousands of people have already started to arrive in the state, and most of the people, in fact, what we have seen since the morning, that are not maintaining social distancing or are not following the COVID appropriate behavior by wearing masks or by maintaining social distancing, by following all the COVID etiquettes. So you can see this definitely is going to be a scare. As far as the crowds are concerned, thousands of people have started to gather. As we can pan and show you what exactly are the scenes from here. You can see that crowd has started to gather not only at the ghats but also at the markets. We'll try and speak to some of the people who are here and try to understand from them that where exactly they have come from and what is the situation like. कहाँ से आए भैया?
हम अहमदाबाद से, राजकोट से आए।
अहमदाबाद से आए। कब पहुँचे यहाँ पर?
कल ही पहुँचे।
कल पहुँचे। सर, एक बात बताइएगा, इस बार की कुंभ में कोरोना का एक थोड़ा डर है, क्या लग रहा है आप लोगों को यहाँ पर?
कोई नहीं है, ये सब झूठी बात है, ये सब अफवाह फैला रहे हैं बस, और कुछ नहीं है।
आपको लगता नहीं कोरोना असली है?
ऐसे ही असली नहीं है, खाली एक राजनीति का बोल चल रहा है बस।
तो आप मानते नहीं? आप भैया?
बात तो एक्चुअली ऐसा है कि सब लोग मानते हैं कि कोरोना है, मगर फिर भी पब्लिक लोग बहुत है, पब्लिक के हिसाब से थोड़ा मास्क वगैरह थोड़ा बराबर लगा के रखना चाहिए, अपने लिए भी बाहर के लिए भी सेफ्टी है, जितने बना के रखेंगे बहुत अच्छी बात है, बाहर के लिए भी अपने लिए भी। धन्यवाद।
मैडम, आप कहाँ से?
लखनऊ से।
लखनऊ से आए सर आप?
लखनऊ।
तो यहाँ पर आप कब आए?
मैं परसों रात में आया।
परसों रात में कुंभ के लिए आए होंगे। यहाँ पर कोरोना के वक्त में जो कुंभ हो रहा है हर बार से अलग है, लेकिन लाखों लोग यहाँ पे जुड़ने वाले हैं, तो उसके चलते क्या लग रहा है, किसी प्रकार का यहाँ पर डर आप लोगों के मन में?
नो।
क्या कारण है?
आस्था
की वजह से। लेकिन फिर भी सावधानी आपको लगता है कि बरतनी चाहिए?
प्रिकॉशन तो लेना चाहिए।
प्रिकॉशन लेना चाहिए। मास्क, बहुत लोग ऐसे जो केयरलेस हैं, मास्क का भी यूज नहीं कर रहे हैं। सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग तो सोच भी नहीं सकते कि अब कोई फॉलो करेगा, क्योंकि भाई महाकुंभ है, तो सोशल डिस्टेंस तो कोई फॉलो कर ही नहीं रहा।
लेकिन फिर ऐसे में सरकार ने भी कहा है कि हो सके तो कम जाए भीड़ भड़ाके वाली जगहों पर, तो यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा लोगों के बीच में अगर कोरोना का फैलता है तो उससे
वो तो 1% का डर तो हमारे अंदर है ही है, लेकिन आस्था की वजह से फिर वो भी नथिंग हो जाता है।
So we have spoken to some people, and as the lady was pointing out, many of the people are actually not wearing a mask. They are not maintaining social distancing, which is virtually not possible when millions of people gather in a small place like Haridwar. So it remains to be seen how exactly is going to management, but as of now, all the COVID appropriate behavior are going for a toss.
All right, Akshay, you remain careful there. Thanks so much for joining us with the very latest. So the Mahakumbh begins today in the midst of the pandemic. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll be back with the latest election news. Stay with us.